Hi, it's Susan from Seaside Stitches. I'm just checking in. It should be Happy Vlogmas number 9, but I'm just getting behind with these. I've no idea how people do this when they work full time. They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. I'm sat here in my lockdown clothes. If you watch many of my videos, you'll see me, a lot of my time lapses. These are my sewing clothes. A really comfy cotton jersey dress. I didn't make it. It was from a charity shop. And this cardi was, it was a Bon Marché. My mum used to love all the Bon Marché clothes. They fit her really well. She'd buy 3 jumpers and with discount on, and she got stamps, and my mum loved to spend. Didn't matter what she spent on, she loved to spend. But she also loved to be dressed all bright. And while I was in a shop with her once, I did notice that they'd got these cardis in a range of colours that went with some of my things. So this is one, must have had it about 8 years. At the time there was a lot of waterfall cardigans. They weren't my style at all. But these just dip down at the front, and at the moment, with these now, I just tie them in the front. There you go, all knotted up. You won't be able to see it, but it doesn't matter. I just find them quite cosy and easy to take on and off. The dress is just on and off if I'm trying things on and taking things off to adjust fitting. So they're my cosy dresses. I've got another one that I've had about 20 years that's got handkerchief points at the bottom. They're just my standby. I don't do pyjamas, I don't do pyjamas, hang about in my dressing gown, but I do like my cosy clothes. So I'm just saying, this is not a me make, and I just want to say thank you for anyone who is watching any of these vlogs and any of my other videos. I really appreciate it, and I've got a lot from making them, and been trying to study why on earth am I making them, because doing the Vlogmas ones is quite difficult, keeping up. So I'm going to do a few of those. I'm already doing kind of every other day. But when I did the number 7, which I think was Monday, I'm completely lost. That I had to edit that early yesterday morning, which was the 8th, wasn't it? So it only went out on the 8th. It's now the 9th. And I'm not going to be putting this out today. I share a device with my husband, and he works on that most of the day. So we kind of team up with when there's space for me to do it, and then it takes such a long to do the editing, and it takes such a long time to then load, to save it, to load it up to YouTube, and and I was kind of examining I keep mentioning I am obsessed with sewing and everything else is falling by the wayside. And I've been really thinking about that, of why that is. It isn't that I'm obsessed with sewing. I am a bit scared of this enthusiasm waning away. So while I've got it, that's where my impetus is. Oh, I need to sew this. I want to sew this. I don't feel a pressure of, oh, I've got to do it now. Or even the things I'd promised myself I would do for Christmas. There is no pressure on that. I don't have to do any of them. But I do enjoy. I enjoy the learning. I enjoy just doing something a little bit different that I haven't done before. Yesterday I did something. It was a really simple thing that I'd never even thought of doing at all. Never mind that way. But I saw a video from Stuart Hillard. But he's Stuart Hillard. Apparently he was on Great British Sewing Bee. Must have been a while ago. I've no idea. I hadn't seen him before. He has a lovely manner. He's obviously taught sewing for years and years. He's just really, he seems a really lovely human being. Don't seem to have put many posts on in the last 12 months, but what is on there is really bright and cheery and very simple. His teaching technique is very simplistic, and I enjoy that. So I managed to make something that he'd demonstrated yesterday. But other than that, I'm not really getting on with much sewing. So I want to concentrate more on actually doing the sewing, so that I feel more comfortable with the things that I've got in hand. I've been held up a bit because I'm waiting for post, because there's a couple of things coming that I'd ordered and I thought they were coming a lot quicker than this, but I've got part way with things and I'm waiting for that. And I've got a little bit behind if we're talking about whether there's a time limit or not, but I decided to make a dress for our anniversary. And there's lots of things about statement sleeves. Well, the statement sleeves that I see now, the big sleeves gathered in elastic at the wrist, they are just sleeves to me. They're not statement sleeves. They're sleeves that I was making in the 70s and probably still in the 80s. If I was still sewing in the 80s, I'm not sure that I was. But certainly you wearing those clothes and looking for those clothes, wearing the ones I'd got, and also buying those type of clothes if I could still see them. And statement sleeves and statement collars, they were just my norm. So I'd seen this pattern and I'd actually got some material that was, it seemed a bit insipid when I saw the sample on the website. And I actually sent for a sample of it, and even when it came, it was just one little piece of paisley, one little loop of paisley, and I didn't think the colours were quite bright enough for me. And I was also ordering some royal blue twill. If you've seen my videos before, you know I'm a fan of royal blue, and this time the royal blue came up. It was beautifully royal, a beautiful royal blue. And once I'd put that swatch, that sample with that royal blue, I thought, now I could use the patterned one for a bodice and use the blue in the lower part of the dress or something. They would go well together. So I ordered some, but I didn't order some. I spotted it in Abercorn, and I realised that when you open it out, it's got a really big pattern. It's a beautiful pattern. You may have seen it in the background on some of my sewing videos recently. I've not done a me make thing about it yet, but I kept plodding on so that I didn't have long to make the dress for our anniversary once I'd thought about it, once I'd decided to do it. So I just kept ploughing on with it, and it wasn't quite coming right. It was difficult to match the pattern, which I managed to do, and I managed to centralise the part that I wanted to. So I chose the pattern that happened to have big sleeves because it would show off the largeness, the hugeness of the pattern, or I don't know what the word is, but the pattern. And I decided I would make the bodice in the blue and the rest of the dress in the patterned. And it kind of wasn't going together as well as I wanted it to. A couple of reasons why. I was mixing two different fabrics. The patterned one is cotton, woven cotton with a bit of elastane, and the twill is twill, so there's no give with it. But that kind of didn't matter. And the way you construct it, you can't alter it. You're already committed once you put the bodice to the top. You're kind of committed to the side seams. And anyway, so I messed about with it quite a while, and then I wasn't sure. I was a bit nervous of putting it has a V-neck, and I have not done a V-neck facing for quite a while. And so I watched a couple of tutorials, and I'd got everything ready, and I did it, and I was really, really pleased with it. And then I pressed it, but I made the mistake of pressing it over my sleeve board. Well, I could have done it not just because of that, but I stretched it. So I stretched the side with the facing on, and so it gaped. And I looked for some fixings to do that, but they're all about how to prepare a pattern for next time so that you don't make something gape. So I spent a lot of time on that. So although I love it and I'm going back to it, and even with this, what I've decided to do, before I'd done that bit of messing, I'd sewn the top of the sleeve, the actual sleeve itself has got the gathers, and I'd inset the sleeves, or set in the sleeves, but I hadn't, so I'd set in the sleeves, but they were a bit dropped off my shoulders and I wasn't happy with them, so I decided I would take out the sleeves and put them in again, moving them up. But in order to keep the gathers I'd already got, I kind of stay stitched all around that side, so that when I pull the sleeve out, a lot of the gather will still be there, and it'll be easier then to get a similar kind of look that I wanted. So what I was coming to say was, I love that kind of where you've got to think, you've got to really get your head around how you could make something good out of this and not just give up or chuck it in a corner. Not saying I wasn't tempted, but yes, I'm really pleased with the efforts I've made to try and put it right before before I made that mistake. And I've already altered the shoulders, the slope of the shoulders from the sleeves to there. Anyway, I'll talk about that another time. But what I'm trying to say is, I love the experience, the process of the sewing. It's not just the running it through the machine, it's the thought processing, and also how can I make this better? How can I do it differently? And I'm a bit scared that I will lose all that enthusiasm, because about this time last year, I suddenly got a buzz about knitting. I hadn't knit for a long time either. I'd been knitting a scarf, because in the anti-fracking, the Preston New Road action we were doing, we were trying to gather knitting donations from all over the world. They were coming in from Australia, New Zealand, Canada. It was amazing. We were trying to create 800 metres of knitting scarves, in essence, so that they could all be joined together and laid against the hedge or attached to the hedge where the fracking site was. Once they fracked, they'd intended to go horizontally for at least 800 metres, and we were trying to match that by showing this is the distance they're going underground, horizontally, not just down. They were going like a mile down, but that was horizontally towards the sea, really, from where they were. And it was an action to demonstrate to passers-by, to the world, really. This is how far this fracking, the drilling is going to take place. And they were going to do laddering, so they would do it underneath that. And there's so much I could say about that, which I won't go into, but that's when I started doing some knitting. So I got about 10 metres and it was time to hand it in. So we got just loads and loads of response to that action. It was just immense. So I think we were away at the time, but I know some of them went to the promenade and rolled it all out there, and there were big massive rolls of it. It was immense, really, just to demonstrate the length of this. The action itself on the hedges couldn't take place because there were other issues involved, but that's when I last did some knitting 2 or 3 years ago. So I decided, I got a knitting bug, and I just tried a scarf and a hat at first, and I knit really slack. So my hat is kind of a bit, as I move, it stays where it is, because it's a bit baggy. And but that's okay, I now know to do it differently. And I made a scarf to match that, although that's not quite finished. And then I started another hat, but that wasn't coming out right, because I'd used a different pattern to the different wool and whatever. I knew I had. And then so that's now going to be a cowl neck kind of a scarf thing, which I'd started on. It's quite an intricate pattern, so it needs a lot of thinking about. And they kind of got, I don't know if the word's relegated, But anyway, they got put in a box, in a tub that then, to make room for the fact that I was doing a multicoloured, chunky, double chunky cardigan, which I've done 2 sides of and part of a back, I think. But they are all in this tub, and I didn't knit any of those after about February, because we were really busy trying to do some drumming venues, and then we locked down in March, and they became just a tub in the corner to put things on, and I never went back to it. So I'm quite scared that I will be going back to it, but I'm a bit nervous that I may do the same with sewing, because I do have fluctuating moods and levels of enthusiasm and energy. And having looked after my mum last year, well, I'll just go into that bit. So also this time of year is a bit strange for us, because it was the week of a funeral last year, and as dates are popping up, I'm getting memories come up on my phone, and yeah, it's a bit of a difficult time, this. I'm not heartbroken about it. I just keep getting, like, you get flashbacks, don't you? And you suddenly get ambushed by a picture, not necessarily a nasty picture, but a picture of those times and what was going on. And because all the 3 sisters of us are all quite bonkers, we had taken her flowers with us to the, well, I suppose you'd call it a wake, but the celebration of her life afterwards, and the grandchildren and great-grandchildren were there. So we took her flowers, so there we are, all 3 of us together with the flowers that are supposed to say mum, but they look like they say woo. But we'd taken those, and the grandma ones as well, which is pretty nutty, isn't it? People just usually leave those somewhere. But so there was nowhere to leave them that felt an appropriate place to leave them. So my sister took them home to her garden. We decided she took them home to her garden, and they kind of lived out their life in her garden as celebrating mum and grandma, which was really quite special to us. So there are photos of that. And so things like that pop up, or the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren at the event afterwards. And to keep them happy, there were lots of adults doing things with them, and they'd made chef's hats out of serviettes and coming to serve you with. It was just a lovely. She would have loved it as a grandma. She would have loved seeing the children all playing together, because they live different parts of the country. So to have them all together at that time, it was really wonderful. But the reason why it was wonderful wasn't so wonderful. So things like that keep cropping up or popping up. And I know this has gone on, and I don't know how Christmassy it is. It's not at all, is it? I'd just like to show you something. I don't know what you'll see from the position, but I'll just show you something. I don't know how clear this will be, and I'll put it in another video, but this is actually Christmassy, because our daughter-in-law, Amy, made us this, with the children helping, and we are 2 Lego figures. I'm dressed as a suffragette, Alan's in a top hat, and looking quite smart. And it was an anti-fracking action that we did at Parliament Square in September 2018, I would think. Yes, it was around the anniversary of the 100 years of the suffragettes movement, and it was just such a thoughtful thing for her to do, and I love it, and having it out at Christmas is beautiful. So I'll put it there because I don't want to spoil it. So that's my only Christmassy thing. I have got a time lapse of me putting up some of this. I don't know what you can see of this along the stairs, but I just wanted to make it so it wasn't too arduous for me to edit, and I loved taking you on the journey the other day. I don't know if it was of any interest to anyone really. In fact, my sister, she says, I come and visit you on your vlogs, because they've not been able to come over. And yeah. So I'm going to finish for now, at that point. I don't know that I finished my conversation I was having at the beginning, but yeah, my love of sewing. So that's why my garden has got a mess, my housework has got a mess. This morning I didn't come down till 11:15, come down from upstairs at 11:15. That isn't because I was laying in bed. I actually decided to put all my clothes away that were hanging about in the bedroom, resort some of my wardrobe and my drawers, and just have a bit of a catch up and check things out and hang things where they should be hung, rather than hanging on hangers on doorknobs and things, and finding places for my me-maids. Yes, so I've had quite a productive morning and I'm really pleased about that. I've even washed up, but don't tell Alan, he'll be shocked. He'll probably come down and take my temperature. So I'll see you again soon, but I probably won't post this until the vlog day 10. Okay, lots of love to everyone. Happy Vlogmas. Bye.